Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. And today I'm joined by fellow medium Lorenda Carr, who I have been following and laughing at with on TikTok for a month definitely with. And I asked her if she'd come on today to share a bit about her work and her journey. So hi, Lorenda, introduce yourself to the listeners.
Hello. So nice to be here. As you said, my name is Lorenda, and I am a psychic medium. I also do past life regression. I'm a QHHT practitioner certified. So I do hypnosis with clients that come to me that want to do past life regression. I also do something called multi-dimensional hypnosis by Proxy. It's a form of hypnosis, but it's very Edgar Cayce-like to help healing and getting to the root of cause of issues. Mostly what I do is mediumship. That's my wheelhouse. That's where I had the most fun. And my personal MTV is what I call my TikTok account. I just pretend that's my second job.
Yeah, well, it takes a lot of time. I'm impressed with the number that you managed to do. I'm like once a week, I've done it. I've done a 30-second video and put a sweat on, and you're there every day. But it does work because it's what drew me to you, because I thought, okay, here's somebody I'm in alignment with who wants to talk about how it really is and not just sell something to hook people in. So that's why we're here. So where do we begin? Let's talk about past life regression to begin with. Why would you have it? What's it for?
My favorite thing is when somebody reaches out and says, I know that my problems are from a past life. I'm like, okay. If someone feels like there's connections to past life issues, or some people will have dreams, and a lot of times it's like they're just curiosity too, like, well, I'm just curious to see what I was in a past life, I feel like I know. And so I go in from a different angle of, sounds good, here's what we're going to do. We're going to regress you get to see the movie, it's a guided meditation, so they get to see they get to experience it, feel it, see it. They go through the death process. But then we contact their higher self and say, why did you show them that? What is the correlation? If someone has unexplained fears, I've had clients that are just deathly afraid of fire and have absolutely no reason for it. So in that past life regression, their higher self might show them where that trauma happened. Mm-hmm. And so my job as a practitioner is to help them identify that, bring that information forward, and then to say, okay, well, this fear, is it necessary? Is it necessary now? Or is this residual? Is this just something they're just like, oh, I'll just carry this baggage with me into the next life? Is it necessary? Sometimes the higher self will say, yes, it is necessary. Sometimes they'll say, actually, no, we're not really sure why she's carrying it around still. Can you get rid of that? Absolutely. So it's all very self-guided to a degree.
Yeah.
Like I facilitate it, but it's their higher self. It's their words. I plant no seeds. I just ask all the questions. So, and I've had, for instance, the person that I was referring to about being so afraid of fire, the next week she says, you're not going to believe this, but I was able to sit outside with my family next to a fire. My brain knew that I used to be afraid of that. My body had no reaction.
Wow.
So that's an example of why. And sometimes it takes, it does no good sometimes. And it's not to say it's not valid, but to sit down with a person, they hold your hand and they're like, oh, you were in Scotland in 1512. And okay, well, where's the validation? How can I validate it? Can I go look it up? Can I go see where I was buried? Can I go find the meat suit that I was in at that time? Like, where's the validation, and how does it correlate to now?
Uh-huh.
So I think there's a lot of value in the past life hypnosis and understanding where you came from, what experiences you brought with you, and how they play into today, and also what the relationships you have with the people around you. Who's your soul family? Who's new to your soul family? Who have you spent time with? So yeah, it's fascinating. I love it. I love this work.
Absolutely. And then you mentioned something else, and you said Edgar Cayce, did you say?
Yes. Yeah. Edgar Cayce did the whole trance hypnosis, had someone facilitate. And that is something that I do with the my partner Sally and I do that with multidimensional hypnosis by Proxy. You've never heard of it. We call it MDH because we made it up. Now, I'm sure there are other people that are doing something similar to this work. I know that in shaman, there are shamans that will do similar work to this. But how this works is she's also a QHHT practitioner. So she's well-versed in hypnosis. So she will regress me. Uh-huh. What's cool is we're to the point now where she can say my keyword and I'm out.
Wow.
Like I'm like, don't say that while we're out in public though, because that's not good. Put me in a trance state.
Yeah.
But then this is for the client that might be remote or that is afraid of hypnosis or doesn't have the time to come and spend a few hours on my couch. She will regress me, ask the questions. I call it my genie, and because I could feel it, like my higher self will connect to their higher self and ask questions, but not just ask questions, but get validation of things that there's absolutely no way I could know or that anybody else could know. And so my facilitator and friend Sally, she will interview them. I don't even know their names until I'm already under. So wow. It's great work. And we are able to do the same thing as what I do with QHHT, which is talk to the higher self. Is this, and my facilitator says, is this necessary? Where, and I get to experience their past lives sometimes. I'm like an observer in that. So it's fun. It's fun for me anyway. I get to take a nap and go on an adventure.
Amazing. So just to be really clear about this, so the by proxy part is you. So whereas you were talking about past life and you're putting somebody under and they have the experience, with Correct. Your MDH by proxy, you are doing it for the client. So they still receive the healing, it still makes the adjustments in their energy, it still changes the thought patterns or whatever's going on there, but you have kind of done the visiting for them.
Yes. And it's good for people who want, maybe like I have one client that had a hard time being regressed because she was so anxious and so afraid of what she would see that I just couldn't get her to that place where she could see everything to benefit her. And when Sally, also the other practitioner, she said like 30% of people cannot be put under. It could be medication, it could be medical issues, it could be, it could be any number of things that doesn't allow a person to get to that theta level state, to be able to function in that theta level state and be able to get information. So she's like, we got to come up with another way to do this to help those clients. And we fill in the gaps with that one.
Amazing. And that's, so you called it, I think you pronounce it slightly different to me. Theta is what I would call it. I think that the accent's different. Yeah. So that's a different frequency of energy, of being. Is that right? And so
it's that place where I always say, when you're almost asleep and you step off a curb and your whole body goes,
yeah.
And you look around, you're like, do we see that? That's theta.
Excellent. Perfect. That's
theta.
Good. Yeah. So it's just like another level of consciousness, really. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Love it. So your main work is mediumship. And so how did you start in all of this craziness that you now find yourself immersed in? What got you there?
Okay. So funny story, actually. So for years, I was I knew what people were thinking. And I was just kind of blown off. It's like, oh, she's just obnoxious. What does she know? I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right. I don't know. Gen X, we don't know anything. Fine. Well, what was happening was like I just kept getting stronger and stronger, but I just put it away, went through life. But I went to a medium when I was 22 and she was like, you're going to do what I do. And I'm like, I don't see dead people. That's silly. Anyway, so am I going to ever get married? That's where I was in my life. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, like she was confused by this whole thing. She thought I should have known that I could do this. Fast forward many years later, about 13 years ago, I connected with an old friend. She's like, oh my gosh, she's psychic. She's like, why are you doing this? You do this. I'm like, no, I don't see dead people. I don't do that. So she talked me into starting with cards. I just started with tarot cards. And I started noticing when I would look at the cards, like symbols would jump off of the card at me. Or if I would go through the book and like start learning the cards, like words, specific words would jump out at me when I would read my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and she kept saying, you've got to do that. You got to push this. I'm like, okay, well, if I get a sign, if spirit sends me a sign, then I'll start doing it. This is why my business was called Sign, by the way. That's why I named it that. So 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. I won a reading for something that I don't even know who I entered it. I have no idea. I won this reading. Lady says, you could do what I do. I'm like, no, I can't. That's funny. They all say that. They just all say that. And then 2 weeks later, I won another reading. By the way, I don't win things. You're going to do what I do. I'm like, well, but I think they just tell everybody that. I'm still stuck on this whole, I don't see dead people in front of me, not knowing that that's not how it works. And so I said, well, if John Edward or Sylvia Brown ever told me, So 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from Katrina, John Edward's person. Well, you're a member of the 5 and you've won a free reading with John Edward. First thing he says to me, you're going to do what I do.
Oh my God.
I'm starstruck, by the way, because I'm like, I've read his books. I have them tabbed and highlighted. I'm like, and I always joke, I'm like, wait, I should have had the wherewithal. I wish I'd had the wherewithal to go, does that mean I'm going to be on TV? Or I'm just going to read people? But it didn't occur to me. Yeah. But it was such a cool experience. So then, and I had to stick to it. So I'm like, all right, that's it. And I started getting into the tarot deeper and studying intuition and studying. One of the things I liked about John Edward's book, Infinite Quest, is that he talks so much about ethics and ego and being humble and understand that this is not about you. This is so not about you. You just happen to be a really great vessel. Mm-hmm. And if you're lucky enough to get this gift, you better honor it and know your place is basically it. And so that's what made me get on this journey. But even then I was like, well, I'm a psychic. I would not say medium because I didn't see the dead people.
Yeah.
I'm at an event, a friend of mine who is a medium. I was like, oh yeah, it was really cool. Like I was doing this reading for somebody and and I was hearing their grandmother talk and and she's like, wait a minute, what'd you just say? I said, I was hearing words. Like my guides will show me things and they'll say things. And like when I see the cards, so I've learned I just have to say the words, right? And she's like, that's mediumship, right? Is it? Like that's how resistant I was to understanding that that's exactly what I was doing all along. And so that's, long story short, pandemic hit and I got all the certifications. I was like, I had time to do it. So I started really I took that time to really develop myself even further. So it's been a long journey, but that's my lifelong story. And now we're here.
I love it. And you're so right, because this is something I have to explain to people when I'm demonstrating, when I'm working all the time, it's not like Ghost Whisperer. There isn't an apparition that is just stood in the room talking to you. I wish they were. It would be a lot easier. Right. But
like, have a seat. Yeah, Grandpa's here. We're just going to have a chit chat.
Yeah. Get your driving license out. I'll just read off it and then everybody will know it's you and my work is done. We could do 3-minute readings. But of course, that's not the way it works, and nor would I want it to be, if I'm honest. So yeah, exactly. So you were hearing it all that time, and good grief, they proved themselves to you. All those readings.
They did. And then, and the other thing that I kept hearing that I was going to do trance mediumship. I'm like, oh, whatever, that's dumb. And the second I said, well, I don't channel the dead people. That same reading, my spirit guides have the funniest sense of humor. Not all of a sudden I'm finding myself, I'm talking and I'm looking around. I'm like, that's me. And I'm talking to my client. It's not me. It's not my thoughts. And she's bawling. I'm like, what's happening right now? Okay. And I just kept talking and saying all these things. And all of a sudden we were done. I was like, wow, I could not tell you to this day what I said.
Yeah, that's the trouble with trance, isn't it? You can't remember it. It's them.
Yeah. So my development coach now has started training me in doing trance mediumship. So I know how to do that. So I'm hoping that even though we can't have the apparition of grandpa here, at least if I can get grandpa to talk through me without me having to interpret all the dang signs, because you and I both know how crazy that can be. Like, I see a bike and they're showing me a foot and like,
Yeah.
all these random,
Yeah,
and it makes no
absolutely.
sense. You just got to say the words and hope it lands.
Exactly. So
But if we could
true.
just cut to the chase, bring grandpa in.
Yeah,
There you
job's a
go.
good one. Done.
Yeah.
Amazing. Fantastic. So when you said you've just done loads of courses and stuff over lockdown and all of that, so where did you start with that? How did you do them online with teachers? Did you read? Or a bit of everything?
I had been reading books and doing like online type, not really classes or certifications all along, but like just slowly learning and practicing and going to events and stuff. But then when the lockdown happened, I actually had time I did my QHHT certification, but I started with the Biddy Tarot. They're out of Australia, like Biddy Tarot free readings, right? But they do a master program, so mastering the tarot. So I took that course, and it took me a good 2 months to get through. I mean, it's pretty intensive. Like, I had to really spend a lot of time on this and learning to read cards intuitively. So that's where I started really not journaling, because I'm not that focused, but like really making note of the symbols I was getting. What do they mean? How do I feel when I see a certain card? What does it mean in the journey? So a lot of times now when I do readings, my guides will actually show me tarot symbols.
Wow.
So I know the words to say. And but prior to that, about 5 years prior to that, I was a free reader on their site. So I could, like, it was just all email. Like, someone would get a question, and I'm a developing psychic, so I would just like do the tarot and like tell them and hit send. That was it. So I did that for like 5 years. And then if I was like, that's it, I have time, I'll do the class. And then so I was listed as one of their master readers on their website for like a year or so. So I started with that. Just started with tarot and understanding. That's how I learned the language of my guides. To me, it's like taking a French class or a Spanish class. You have to learn the language of your guides. You have to understand their vibration. You've got to understand the symbols. And tarot was the perfect way to do that. So many symbols in tarot. So that's where I started, and then went from there to, in that time, I also had found a mentor here in Indiana. I'm in Indiana in the United States. Found a mentor that's like 45 minutes from here, a spiritualist camp that I'd always wanted to go to, but could never do it because I teach dance all the time.
Yeah.
And now they were doing online classes, which they'd obviously never done before. Otherwise, I'd have been on it. So I'm like taking all these classes, spiritual anatomy. I'm taking all these classes, and I'm doing. I'm part of a development circle, where we just read for each other. We do platform readings, and she kept telling me, I got to get you ready for platform readings. I need to get you ready for big crowds. I'm like, all right. And here I'm doing readings on TikTok, and I'm doing with upwards of 800 people in my room at a time. So I'm kind of doing that kind of work.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
it's truly just evolved into like one thing into another. I got certified in soul speak, which is the language of the body. And now I'm learning how to do QHHT, but virtually.
Yeah, that would be.
It's not called QHHT, by the way. It's called BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing. But it can't be called QHHT. It can't be. So I'm like, cool, I'll have more letters behind my name. Great.
Yeah, wow, that's very fancy. So what advice would you give somebody who's just starting to open up their gifts? You start with the tarot?
Tarot is, to me, that how did one of my friends put it? She says, it's the gateway drug. it's the gateway method. It is. I mean, because especially if you're a visual person, I'm a visual person. So I have to be hands-on. Like, I have to have all the senses. So if I see a card and something, then I can start relating how that feels and start seeing it intuitively. Then that opens up other things. So I think tarot is good, or oracle cards. Not everybody is drawn to tarot. Not everybody is drawn to cards. It really does depend on the person's interests, what holds their attention. Some people are into crystals, that they like the pretty rocks, so they're gonna do that. Some people like the pendulums. It's whatever you're drawn to, that's where you start. If you're not sure, walk around the cool, like the psychic shop, whatever those are. I'm like totally losing my words on that, but you know what I mean.
But we know what you mean. Psychic shop was fine. The spiritual shop, yeah,
spiritual shop. So just walk around whatever you're drawn to. Listen to it. Listen to that intuition. Touch, feel, figure out. I think I like this. Okay. Once you start with one thing, it'll lead to the next. It'll lead to the next. Your guides know where you need to start. And they're gonna guide you to do that. So, but I do love tarot for beginners.
Fantastic. And do you have any sort of daily practice? I mean, obviously you're still developing. We're all still developing. We're never ever done. But do you have anything that you do every day, or are you a bit like me and a bit blasé? And
some days, if I don't have something on the calendar, some days I'm just like, oh, sorry, you're here. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I forget. I get so caught up because we're human. We are still here for a human experience. So our lives do not revolve around mediumship. And I think my guides like that for me. They understand that I'm still trying to balance my own lessons. That I'm here to serve and help others and prove the continuity of life. At the same time, I got my own checklist. So they're like, yeah, we'll just let her be for a minute. But when I know, like when I need to do something, they're like, all right, come on. Okay. I think TikTok has been I've not only been on TikTok for a few months as far as my mediumship goes. But that has been a good reminder because, it's totally addictive.
Yeah. Totally
addictive. And so I'm meeting a lot of people in the community. I've been on a lot of lives and had a lot of chats. So that it's not that I'm doing anything necessarily, but I feel like by checking in with other people that do practice this as well, keeps my vibration up.
Yeah.
And so it keeps me aware, and just not on alert all the time, because I do flick the switch off. I'm like, nope, lights off, flip the sign, closed for business. I've got life to live right now. So I don't live in that space all the time, but I think that by checking in with my friends, that is something that it keeps my vibration where it needs to be.
Amazing. I love that. So what's your personal philosophy when it comes to spirituality and the meaning of life? What would you call that? There's a hard question.
Oh no. Just when you think you know something, you don't. People that come on and they're like, I know that da 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 da. No, you don't. You don't know anything. You know what your guides have shown you. You know what you've been privileged to see, but do you really know everything? You don't. Just because we're mediums doesn't mean you have to be open. That's my philosophy. You've got to be open. And I am not a dog and pony show. I am a vessel that helps prove the continuity of life. That is it. That is it. But yeah, that is my whole overarching vibe. Just when you think you know something, Spirit's going to show you that you don't.
So true. Absolutely.
That's time. Yeah. When your ego gets in the way, they're going to be like, oh, all right, new life lesson. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then they just drop that on your lap.
And also I think with all mediumship, I think because there is an unfolding, it's not, you don't get the whole picture. People think you get the picture and it's done on day one, but you have to grow into it, don't you?
Mm-hmm. You do. And, I've heard people say, well, not everybody's a medium. And that I fully believe that. I think you can intuitively, I think pretty much anybody can intuitively connect if they're vibrating, if they do the work, you do intuitively connect. I don't think everybody can be a medium necessarily. But again, who knows? That could only be what they're giving me. I didn't think I was a medium. I didn't think I'd had these things. Now I do. So Spirit will show you what you need in the time you need it. Mm-hmm. And they're going to develop you in a way that is healthy. And so I've never understood. People are like, oh, I've always known since I was like 5. I've seen the dead people. I'm like, that's impressive. Terrifying.
Yeah.
And annoying. Like, I don't know that I'd want that as a 5-year-old.
No,
you know?
I'm glad I had a childhood.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we are here to be mediums, but we are also here to live a human life. So I love the way you're saying you closed, you turned your sign around, you switched it off, because I think it is addictive. And I know that when I went into mediumship, I loved it so much. I almost wanted to leave. You know, you'd go on a course and it would blow your mind, and then you'd come home and you'd have 12 loads of washing to do, and everyone was moaning about what you cooked for dinner. And you'd be like, I think I'll just go back to that meditation space.
I'm going to go back to over here.
Yeah, thank you. But of course, we're not here to be in the spirit world. We're here to be in the physical world. You can't, completely agree.
Yep. You can't just live in that space all the time. And I do have people that I see are in every single live that I'm in, that other people that I know are in, constantly asking the same questions too. And I'm like, didn't we just answer that? But it's like they're just constant. And even the people that I watch are addicted, and they're waiting for all the answers to fall in their lap. That's the other thing I think people don't understand is mediums are not here to predict your future. And I said, that's one of the things I say in my website as my introduction. Hey, so guess what? I don't predict futures. There's no set in stone. You have choices. And I'm not going to tell you what you're going to do, because then that's a self-fulfilling prophecy right there. Not putting that on me. No thanks. But I'm going to tell you what they're telling me, and then I'm just going to leave it on your lap, and then I'm going to go about my business.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a real problem I think us readers face, is that there is that idea that your future is set in stone, but it's so disempowering. And if you work with the spirit world for any amount of time, you know it is all about empowering you to make the choices that are right for your life. And so there's no reader on earth that can tell you what your path is going to hold, because you've chosen, you've got to choose it. And it is really difficult. And people just I think people are very disempowered, and it is very difficult. And they come for a reading and they want you to just say, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And when you say there's all this potential for you, but it's up to you what you do with it, they kind of, some of them are a bit,
well, that's a waste of time.
Yeah. Where's my tall, dark, handsome stranger when I want him? And doesn't work like that.
It doesn't.
I completely agree. So what advice would you give to somebody who wants to have a reading but hasn't had one before and is a bit nervous about it? One,
don't be afraid. We're not going to tell you when you're going to die. I don't want to know when you're going to die. You don't want to know when you're going to die. We are not privy to that information.
Absolutely.
And if that's where your reader starts, you need to stop.
Run away.
Be like, oh gosh, I forgot I have something in the oven. I got to go. Move on. But the fear, I think that is what gets people the most, is the fear, but also the expectations. Like they'll come in and be like, well, I want to hear from my in their mind, I want to hear from my grandpa. And if it's going to be my grandpa, it's going to say, you were just talking about this on one of your podcasts. Yeah. And I was like, yes, this. And it's expectations. Don't have expectations. Now, as a reader, when I sit down especially if you're only paying for a 30-minute reading, I hate it when I go in and I have expectations, but nobody, like the reader doesn't ask me what I want to know. They just like launch into telling me all the messages they're getting. And then at the end, they're like, oh, did you have any questions? I did. And you didn't answer any of them. So I try to be conscious of that as a reader, to say, what are your expectations? What are you hoping to, I don't need details, but what are you hoping to get out of this? So I know what muscle to use.
Yeah.
Right now.
Absolutely.
And which direction we need to go. Be open to the messages. And I don't mean that in such a cliche way. It's so important to, again, it's like having no expectations. But if I say, spirit gives you, know this, they'll give the most random references and it makes no sense to you, but it's not my job to know.
Yeah.
It's a HIPAA. In America, it's called HIPAA, when it's like the health and privacy laws, HIPAA. So I'm like, this is the spiritual HIPAA law. I don't get to know your business.
Yeah.
I don't want to know your business. So Spirit's going to give me these keywords that in my life references to say to you. And if something doesn't make sense right now, it will later. Mm-hmm. I guarantee it. They don't just give me random words for nothing. We write them down and just be open to what those could mean. It may not be what it is face value.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to be open. I think one of the things that I've been struggling with in demonstrations is people almost holding their loved ones hostage for that one piece of evidence. So you've got 10 things you've said about their grandfather, and people won't put their hand up because they're waiting for you to talk about Albuquerque. And, you know, and you might not get that, and you might not be able to receive that. And so your sis, and they, you know, and you say, I mean, last night was someone came up to me at the end after I demonstrated and said, God, you're so patient, because you'd fight and someone would finally put their hand up and say, yeah, you're with me. And you'd say, okay, so what's the reluctance? Do you understand this? Do you want? And they'd go, yes, 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 yes. But they still were holding on, and people can't help that. But if you're going for a reading, wherever possible, just try and let go of asking them to prove themselves by one specific way.
Exactly. And that takes me back to I'm not a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
I'm not here to prove to you that I have these abilities. That's not my job. My job is to prove the continuity I have and to deliver whatever message your loved ones are spouting out to you. That's between you all.
Yeah.
But you need to like step it up, you know, and really pay attention. And my favorite example of this is my own story. Like before I was doing any of this, I was pregnant with my third child. My grandfather had just died like a month prior. My baby was due in June, right? So the psychic's going, June, what's June? I'm like, oh, my baby's due in June. She's like, oh no, you'll have him end of May, like blonde hair, blue eyes. But that's like neither here nor there. Like, I'm like, first of all, that was kind of cool. Like she kind of glossed over it. And she kept saying June, June, June. Then talked about my grandfather coming through. So do you know what my maiden name is?
What?
June. Do you know how long it took me to figure that out?
Yeah.
A week.
Yeah. So true. So
like,
true.
Because I was like, well, but she said the baby's not going to be born in June. Yeah. And like, he's due mid-June. Like, then it'll be early. Like, oh, I don't know. Is this okay? And so that I'm so fixated on June being a date instead of being open to, oh, that's the grandfather's last name that was talking to me.
I love it. That's such a great example of how it works and how our own brains get in the way.
Yes. And I tell people, yeah, write it down, take note. It'll come to you later. Psychic amnesia.
I love it. And it is, I mean, I know when I'm watching medium work or when I get a message, it is stressful because you are sitting there trying to remember, trying to get your brain out of the way, trying to think. And we have to accept, I think, that it's imperfect and everyone does their best. Yes. Brilliant. Love it. So what's next for you, Lorenda? Where are you going to take your work next?
I don't know. Like, I just honestly, like I have surrendered my journey to spirit.
Amazing.
So right now I'm getting certified. I'm doing the certification program for the online past life regression. I'm big into manifesting. That's something I've been working on also. What's funny is my TikTok, I have 2 TikTok accounts. One was my manifestation experiment. Mm-hmm. Like it was completely just an experiment. Proving to someone else that, oh, this is how you manifest. I'll have $10,000 at the end of the week. It worked. So like manifesting is kind of the thing that I'm really kind of focusing on and helping clients do. But my son graduates this month from high school. So I had said, I need a minute. I need to enjoy this a little bit. So I haven't really been flooded with reading requests. I've had a few, but it's like it kind of backed off, which was nice. It's been nice for me because I've been able to enjoy this time and also my other business. So I think pretty much what's next for me is I just continue to do what I'm doing. I would really ultimately my dream would be to have my own TV show.
Wow, yeah.
I think that'd be amazing. Because Spirit told me over the pandemic, I hated talking on camera. I hated being on camera. I hated doing anything with camera. And Spirit made me start doing YouTube videos.
Practice.
And I was doing it in my bathrobe, no makeup. And I call it bathrobe tarot because I had to set my ego aside. And I was just doing recorded videos and getting used to seeing myself on camera. And I was like, what's this for? Why does anybody care?
Yeah.
It's for all I know, it's so I could do TikTok, or so I could do videos over Zoom. Like you just learning over Zoom and have that connection and not be like, oh God, ugh. Okay, so I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, you're just getting over it. So I would love to do that, but who knows?
Well, I can see it happening. That would be incredible. So thank you very much. I had so many questions, but you've taught me so much. It's been brilliant. If you're interested in seeing more about Lorenda and what she does, you can visit her website, which is spiritmessagesfromtheotherside.com. But on all the socials, I will tag all of Lorenda's socials as well, so you can see. And thank you very much for your time today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun. I always love talking about spirit because that's why we're here.
Yeah, it's so amazing.
Mm-hmm.